Hello, this lecture is about research methodology. In this lecture, we are going to talk about what's meant by research, the main objectives of research, what are the different classifications or different types of researches, and what's the difference between method and methodology. Let's start with what's a research. A research can be defined as a scientific and systematic search for relevant information. So a research is an art of scientific investigation. We would like to investigate or examine or search for something like that, okay? So in short, the search for knowledge through objective and systematic method of finding solution is a research. So research is required for four main reasons. Number one, to find solutions. Number two, make decisions. Number three, develop new concepts. And finally, number four, find different strategies. So with respect to number one, you have a problem and you would like to find a solution for this problem. Say, for example, demand for a specific product declines, or the economic growth rate of the country decreases. So we would like to find solution for this problem. Okay. Number two, make decision. You would like to maintain the same advertising budget. You would like to keep wages constant, for example. So this is the decision you would like to make. Okay. Number three, develop new concepts. Just for example, such as green hydrogen. This is a new concept and you would like to find the definition of this new concept. And finally, with respect to strategies, there are different strategies to solve any problem and you would like to find which one of them is the most appropriate one. What are the main objectives of research? As we said, that the main purpose of research is to answer a question, to find solution. Okay, so we have to set a question and to find or discover an answer for this question. So the main aim of research is to find out the truth which is hidden and which hasn't been discovered. Research objectives can be one of the following: promote better decision making, base for innovation, identify problem area, forecasting, formulation of policy and strategy, development of new product or new concept, as we said before, understand the competitive environment, optimal utilization of resources, identify marketing opportunities and constraints, evaluate marketing plan, for example. So objective of research are falling into one of the following. Number one, to gain familiarity with a phenomena. Number two, portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual, situation, or group of people. Determine the frequency with which something occurs or with which it associated with something else. And finally, to test the hypothesis for a causal relationship between two variables. So these are the groups of objectives in which any research paper should fall in one of them. Motivation in research. What makes people would like to undertake a research? Number one, desire to get a research degree, say for example master degree or diploma or something like that. Desire to face the challenge in solving the unsolved problems. This is related to something in your real life or your work. So there is a problem and you would like to find the problem for this one. Desire to get intellectual joy of doing something creative. Desire to be of service to society. And finally, desire to get respectability. What are the different classifications or different types of research? There are a large number of types of research. We can classify them as follows. The first group, descriptive and analytical. With respect to descriptive research, it includes surveys. The major objective of descriptive research is description of the state of affairs. We would like to describe something as it is. The main characteristic of these methods is that the researcher has no control over the variables. He can only report what happens. What about the analytical one? In case of analytical, you would like to analyze. So the researcher has to use facts or information and analyze them to make a critical evaluation of the material. So in case of the descriptive research, researchers are going to use the actual data and describe what has happened or what is happening. While in case of analytical, researchers are going to use the information available and critically evaluate this material. So an example for the descriptive research is the journalistic description of the Watergate scandal. So this is a descriptive one. Just to describe the situation as it is, as we said before. What about the analytical one? In case of analytical one, just like the analysis of the stock market, for example. So this is the first classification of researches. Number two, applied research and fundamental research. With respect to applied research, it aims at finding a solution for an immediate problem facing a society or an industry or business, something like that. So the main aim of the applied one is to find solution. What about the fundamental? Fundamental is mainly concerned with generalization and generalization of theory. So if you think about a marketing research, do you think marketing research is applied research or fundamental research? Actually, marketing research is an applied research. What about the fundamental? With respect to fundamental research, this is related to product life cycle. For example, this is a fundamental research. Classification number 3, quantitative and qualitative research. This is based on the data used on each one of them. In case of quantitative, it's based on measurement of quantity or amount, while with respect to qualitative, it's related to qualitative phenomena. For example, if you would like to talk about economic growth rate, this is a quantitative one. But if you would like to talk about utility, consumer utility, or preferences, actually preferences can be measured. So this is a qualitative one. If you would like to analyze the attitude, this is a qualitative one. It's not a quantitative one. Okay, but if you are going to analyze income received by each individual, this is a quantitative one. Number 4, conceptual research and empirical research. With respect to conceptual, this is related to ideas and theories. It's related to the development of new concept. If you would like to develop a new concept or a new theory or new idea, this is the conceptual one. What about the empirical? Empirical is related to observation of reality and experiences. It's based on data in order to get a conclusion. So empirical work, or sometimes it's known as experimental work, it's related to the actual data and finding conclusion based on these data. While the conceptual one, this is related to the new concept or philosophy. Say, for example, the theory of absolute advantage. When it was first realized, it was a new concept, and it is a conceptual research. Coronavirus, when it was first realized, this is a conceptual research. While with respect to empirical, if you would like to analyze the demand for Pepsi in Egypt, this is an empirical work, as you are going to collect actual data for Pepsi and make an analysis and conclusion for this. So these are the 4 different classifications of types of research. What's the difference between research method and methodology? Research methods. Research method may be understood as all those methods, techniques that are used for conduction of research. So it includes all methods used by the researcher during the course of studying or during writing, starting from thinking about the topic or the research problem, ending with the writing of the research paper. So this is research method. So research method can be put into the following 3 groups. Number 1 is concerned with collection of data. Number 2, the statistical technique that will be used. And number 3, method of evaluation of the accuracy of the results. Or in other words, robustness check of the results. So this is research method. So for example, if the type of research is library research, so the methods that can be used, historical records, and the techniques that will be used are recording of notes, for example. While in case of field research, For example, one of the methods that can be used is personal interview, and the technique is interviewer uses a detailed schedule with open and closed question and so on. So these are the different types of research, the methods that will be used, and the technique that will be applied. What about research methodology? Research methodology is a way to systematically solve the research problem. So here we have to identify the research problem and find the way to solve this problem. This is the research methodology. So it is related, or it shows the different steps that we have to follow in order to solve this problem. So it's important for the researcher not only to know the technique or the method that he is going to use, but also the methodology that he is going to apply. So the scope of research methodology is wider than the research method. So research methodology is the wider umbrella. Okay. So if we have a research process, the first step is to review the available literature and then formulate a question. After that, we have to select an appropriate research design, collect relevant data, interpret findings, publish findings, and this is the end of the process. So once again, I'll say, for example, I would like to study the relationship between, or in other words, study the impact of economic growth on foreign direct investment. So first of all, we have to collect previous studies that talk about determinants of foreign direct investment, or the relationship between economic growth and foreign direct investment. And then identify the knowledge gap. And from this knowledge gap, we have to formulate the question we would like to answer in our paper. And then select the appropriate research design. And we have to identify the data that will be used in the analysis. Are we going to apply this using an annual data, or a cross-sectional data, or a panel? And finally, interpret the results and publish these findings. Also, we can identify research process to be more appropriate, or more organized, as follows. Number one, we have to find the research problem. And then after that, we have to review literature. In this case, we have to review concepts and theories and review previous research findings. So this is related to two main parts. Number one, previous studies and their findings or their results. And number two, economic theory and the main concepts related to our research problem. And then formulate the hypothesis of the study. We would like to find whether economic growth rate has a positive impact on FDI or not. So this is the hypothesis of our study. Later on, we are going to identify in details how to write hypothesis. Then we have to design research, including sample, the method that will be used, whether we are going to use an econometric model or something like that, or it's just an analysis for the data. We have to identify here in research design everything. And then collect the data. After designing, we have to apply this in the analysis part. We have to test the hypothesis, analyze data, estimate the model if we have a model, and then interpret the results and make a report. And this is the final step. We are going to talk about each one of them in detail later on. What are the criteria of good research? Sorry. The main criteria of good research: number one, research purpose should be clearly defined. The main objective of the research should be clearly identified. Number two, common concepts be used. Number three, the research procedures or steps have to be clearly identified in order to allow any other researcher to repeat them and find the same results, or to find something else that is related to the researcher and the sample used. And number four, the procedure or the steps that you are going to follow in writing your research should be clearly planned in order to get the specified results. Also, the researcher should report everything related to his research, even if the errors or defects. Analysis of data should be sufficiently adequate. Analysis of data should include reasons behind selection of the sample under consideration, sources of data, everything related to data. Number seven, the validity and reliability of the data should be checked carefully. And finally, conclusion should be confined to those justified by the data of the research. These 8 criteria to show that your research is a good research. Finally, related to quality of good research. Good research is systematic, structured, which means that steps that you have a well-defined steps. Number 2, logical. And number 3, empirical. And finally, number 4, replicable, which means that research results has to be verified. This is the end of our lecture today. Thank you and see you next week. Please don't forget